There's a small cafe in my town, a cozy spot where the coffee is always hot, the pastries always fresh, and the staff always friendly. It's the kind of place you'd expect to find people reading novels, chatting quietly, or enjoying a warm drink on a cold evening. But there's one peculiar thing about this cafe. Written in bold letters on a wooden plaque above the counter is a single rule: never serve the midnight customer. At first, I thought it was some quirky inside joke, a way to add a little mystery to the place. When I took the job as the night shift barista, I learned it wasn't a joke at all. It was a warning I should have taken seriously. Because the night I broke the rule, everything changed. When I first started, the owner, Mary, was very clear about the rules. She was a kind woman, but had a certain gravity when it came to the cafe's peculiar traditions. We closed the doors at 11:30 p.m. sharp, she explained on my first shift. You mop, clean, and get out by midnight. And if anyone knocks after we're closed, you don't answer. You don't even look at the door. I raised an eyebrow. Why not? What if someone needs help? Mary's expression darkened. If it's after midnight, it's not someone who needs help. It's something. And trust me, you don't want to find out what happens if you open that door. It sounded ridiculous. A campfire story designed to scare the new hire. Still, there was something in her voice that made me uneasy. For the first few weeks, everything was normal. I'd brew coffee, clean tables, and chat with the late-night regulars. By 11:30, the cafe would be empty, and I'd lock up and finish cleaning. No strange knocks, no mysterious figures. Just a quiet, peaceful job. Then came the night I broke the rule. It was a Thursday, and the cafe had been unusually busy. I was running behind schedule, scrubbing the counters when I realized it was already 11:45. Muttering under my breath, I locked the front door, flipped the sign to closed, and continued my cleanup. I didn't notice the time creeping toward midnight. It started as a soft knock, barely audible over the hum of the coffee machines. I froze, glancing at the clock. 12:03 a.m. My stomach tightened. Mary's words came rushing back. If anyone knocks after we're closed, you don't answer. You don't even look. Knock. Knock. Hello. A man's voice called from the other side of the glass door. It was calm, polite, almost friendly. Sorry to bother you, but I think I left my phone here earlier. Could you check for me? I hesitated, my mop still in hand. He sounded normal enough. Maybe he really had left something behind. But as I approached the door, something felt off. The man stood under the dim streetlight, his face obscured by a hood. He didn't seem threatening, but the way he stood, perfectly still, made my skin crawl. We're closed, I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. Come back tomorrow? Please, he said, his voice softening. It'll only take a second. Against my better judgment, I reached for the lock. But as my hand touched the latch, a chill ran up my spine. The air in the cafe seemed to shift, growing colder. The persistent stranger. I backed away from the door, my heart pounding. Knock! 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 The man's tone changed. Don't ignore me. Just open the door. His voice was sharper now, almost angry. I glanced at the clock again. 12:07. The minutes seemed to stretch endlessly. Then the lights flickered. The cafe, once warm and inviting, now felt oppressive. Shadows seemed to stretch and twist, and the air was heavy, suffocating. Why won't you help me? The man asked. His voice no longer sounded human. It was layered, distorted, as if several voices were speaking at once. Terrified, I grabbed my phone and called Mary. She answered on the second ring. Is someone at the door? She asked, her voice tight with fear. Yes, I whispered. He says he left his phone. Don't look at him, Mary interrupted. Don't talk to him. Get away from the door. Now! I stumbled back, her words sending a fresh wave of panic through me. But he's not leaving, I said, my voice shaking. What do I do? Go to the back room, she said. Lock the door and don't come out until dawn. No matter what you hear, the intruder. The knocking stopped, and for a moment, I thought he'd left. But then I heard it, the soft scrape of nails against the glass. I turned, my breath catching in my throat. The man was still there, but he wasn't standing anymore. He was pressed against the glass, his hands splayed, his face twisted into something monstrous. His eyes were dark voids, and his mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. "Let me in," he hissed, his voice like nails on a chalkboard. I ran to the back room, slamming the door behind me. My hands fumbled with the lock as the scraping grew louder, followed by heavy footsteps. "Why are you hiding?" the voice called out. It wasn't just outside the door. It was everywhere, echoing through the walls. I pressed myself into the corner, clutching my phone. The call with Mary had dropped, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence. The footsteps stopped, and for a moment, there was nothing but the sound of my own ragged breathing. Then came the whisper, "I'm already inside." The lights in the back room flickered violently, plunging me into darkness. When they came back on, he was there standing in the middle of the room. Only it wasn't him anymore. His body was twisted, his limbs too long, his face an unrecognizable mass of shifting features. "You broke the rule," he said, his voice like 1,000 whispers. "And now, you'll join me." I backed against the wall, searching for anything I could use as a weapon. My fingers closed around a heavy coffee grinder, and I hurled it at him. It passed through his form as if he were made of smoke. He lunged, and everything went black. I woke up to the sound of the morning rush. The cafe was bustling with customers, the sun streaming through the windows. Everything looked normal, but I felt different. I moved to the mirror behind the counter and froze. The reflection staring back wasn't mine. My skin was pale, my eyes dark and hollow. I turned to see Mary standing in the doorway, her face pale. "You shouldn't have opened the door," she whispered. I didn't respond. I couldn't. As the day went on, I found myself serving customers, smiling mechanically, as if nothing had happened. But deep down, I knew I was no longer me. The sign behind the counter had changed too. "Never serve the midnight customer." Only now, it wasn't a warning. It was a rule I was bound to enforce. Forever.